Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Deep Fix podcast. It's been a minute since we've done one of these, but I have a very good reason, which is that I became a father. And I could not be more excited to kick off a new season of the show with none other than Michael Taft.
Instead, you recognize all of experience is inseparable from the awakeness. And so there's nothing to get away from. And everything that you see is an actual shining expression of the sacred. Right now, that's a very different position. That's not transcendental. Like I'm trying to get out of the dirty, sinful, deluded world into just my nirvana. It's saying samsara and nirvana are the same thing. They are never separate.
Michael is a meditation teacher. He's an author. He's the host of the Deconstructing Yourself podcast, which is widely celebrated in the meditation and spiritual scene. And this is certainly my opinion and bias, but I believe that Michael is one of the best living meditation teachers for Westerners, specifically in his ability to distill so many different lineages and techniques into a teaching that effectively helps a lot of people wake up.
You're going to learn a meditation technique. Learning the technique well is the whole thing, and then just do the technique. All of which is great. I support that entirely. I love that. But don't forget why you're doing it. Like, what is the point? And for many of them, the point isn't the one I'm making. The point is to get in a highly concentrated state. And I'm like, okay, high concentration is wonderful. Why are you doing it? If you're doing it to wake up, then you know what? You can wake up right now.
But what I appreciate most about Michael, and which you'll see in this conversation, is just how real and down-to-earth he is. Towards the end of our convo, he guides us into a meditation in the deep end of non-duality, which I hope you'll stick around for. And without further ado, I give you Michael Taft. Michael Taft, welcome to Deep Fix.
Thanks, Alex. I need a deep fix, so hopefully you can hook me up here.
Yeah. Well, you have such a rich and colorful spiritual biography, and the more I learn about it, the more fascinating it becomes. So I was thinking we can start there. You've mentioned before that early on you had an inhibition to teach because of your experiences with an Indian guru. Could you take us into that? And I'm curious specifically what the hesitation to teach was rooted in and what eventually shifted that resistance.
Yeah, it's simple. I'm used to, a teacher being an enlightened wizard, because that's the teacher I was working with, and the student of theirs that I still work with are enlightened wizards that can read your mind and make miracles happen. And I'm not one of those. And so when people were like, hey, can you teach? I'm just like, are you kidding me? No way. Because that's what a teacher is. It's an enlightened wizard that can read your mind and make miracles happen. And so it's simple. I was just like, come on. But over time, people kept asking me to teach them, can you please teach me meditation? Can you please teach me this? Can you please teach me, something about these topics? And, at a certain point, it's like the refusal is kind of more arrogant than doing it. If you see what I mean, it's like, oh no, I'm too special to teach you or something. I don't know. It just comes off the wrong way. And so I was living in LA, and two of my close friends were very involved in 12-step stuff, like really involved, which in LA seems bigger than other places. Maybe there's just more people with addictions there. I don't know. But the 12-step scene in LA at the time was enormous. Um, and so one of my friends, one of these two friends who was very into it, was like, look, there's a group that meets at my house every week. We're trying to do the 12th step. You're a meditation teacher. Can't you just please come and show us how to meditate? And so finally I was just like, okay, sure. Why not? I can show you how to meditate. That's all they're asking for. Just know, I'm not a guru, I'm not an enlightened wizard, but I can show you how to meditate. And uh, I don't know how much experience you have with 12-step groups, but one great thing about them is the people show up, right? They show up. That's part of the thing, is to show up again and again and again. And so I always show up. Like if I teach a class, I expect myself to be there like 48 weeks a year, like I'm there. I'm there. I'm there. And so that particular group, um, which the membership of which changed a lot, shifting, but mainly just got bigger and bigger. Um, I worked together with them for a couple years, and it was a fabulous experience. I just loved it. And I saw the way that I could be helpful without being an enlightened wizard. And so, that's how I started teaching.
Hmm. I do have some experience with the 12 steps, and they do show up. And I want to just maybe go back to a minute on your guru and this enlightened wizard. I think some of your students today might like to debate your point there on whether you meet those qualifications. But I've also heard you talk about this guru say some pretty wild claims, such as like he was 115. It
That
never.
wasn't a wild claim. I mean, I've met the other members of his family, who were like 95, and they're like, yeah, he's my older cousin. Yeah, he's an old guy. He was really old.
Well, okay, so the wilder claims I think that I've heard you tell me was that it never used to rain on him.
Yeah, he didn't say that. I just, many people I know who are my friends who lived with him on an ashram would like, yeah, we go walking on the beach and it would rain and it wouldn't rain on him. It was just a normal thing they saw really often. So going into that stuff is just, I don't know, not
Yeah,
helpful,
yeah.
right? Because people will either think I'm full of shit or believe it. And so whatever we say about it, it's like not going to change anybody's mind or whatever. But let's just say this: when you're at that level, stuff like that is just normal. It just seems obvious.
I want to hear a little bit about your experience while you were there. Was this when you really woke up, or did you have experiences prior to this that led you to India?
I had experiences prior to that. And also, I took initiation from his student in America. And the student, Anandima, she's just as powerful. So, a bunch of really big experiences started happening right away. But stuff was already happening before I met them, which is why I went and was willing to do something so crazy on the face of it. Is just, um, you know, I had a lot of experience with things being real weird.
Hmm. And this was Hindu Tantra while you were there?
Yeah.
Classical Tantra?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
And
energy stuff, Kundalini stuff, pranayama stuff, all that.
mhm. And something I'm also curious about is you weave a lot of this stuff into how you teach today, with mantra and chanting, and maybe even more so in recent years, and also deity yoga and a lot of other practices. But something that I've heard, for instance, like Daniel Ingram has, I think, famously made the critique that there are a lot of Western teachers who are basically teaching a different version, a more watered down version than the thing it was that actually woke them up, which was
Mhm.
usually like years with in Asian masters. And I'm
Sure.
curious just to hear a little bit, maybe moving in a little bit into like your teaching approach, like how that informs how you teach today.
Well, the thing that initially woke me up was a heroic dose of LSD, so, and I'm not giving people heroic doses of LSD. So, um, sure, Daniel, of course, Daniel's my friend and I adore him. So I'm not, I'm used to these critiques. But it comes back to your original question. I don't have some of the qualifications to give someone like a Kundalini initiation. And I don't mean like I don't have a rubber stamp to do it. I mean, I can't do it. You know, like, so I'm not trying to recreate what they did to me, you know,
Uh-huh.
or what I got from them because I'm not at the level to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it turns out that, on the other hand, a lot of, people can get tremendous benefit and personal growth and spiritual depth and stuff out of a lot of the things I am teaching that don't quite go there yet. And then if at that point they want to go to a Hindu guru, even the particular woman I'm talking about, the student of Dhyan Yogi, um, who's, here in the Bay Area, great, but you got to be ready to fully, fully embrace all of Hinduism in a way that is many people would balk at.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So I'm offering something in between, or even a Tibetan master, where it's still you're sort of getting into a different culture in a deep, 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 deep way, which I love. I love doing that kind of stuff. Give me a different culture, I'll get into it, but not everybody's like that. So,
Okay, and now I have to, and I was wondering if this is going to come up. I'm going to have to ask you about this heroic dose of LSD. You've told me a little bit about this, so I know a little about it. But what happened then? What might be worth sharing?
um, well, at that point, I was already a veteran of a lot of acid, like a couple of years of basically doing it more or less on the daily, for years,
And how old were you around this time?
in college.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Japan and didn't trip for a while. And then one of my friends back from the States, who, I had been doing all this experimentation with, sent me a package that had a bunch of acid in it. Actually, a tiny amount, just a couple hits. But what I didn't realize was that the reason he sent it to me was that it was extremely powerful. He was
Sounds like a
like,
good friend.
yeah, yeah, he's great. But it was like, here's something for you. So I took it and didn't, uh, again, even being quite used to this substance, it was like on another level of uh, extreme hallucination, extreme visuals, extreme reality melting into something else continuously. And I was out in the mountains at night in Japan in the dark, because it was like, oh, let's trip and walk around in the mountains. Okay, but
And you
you
were
know,
living in Japan at that
yeah,
time.
yeah, I was living in Japan, and you could just walk up into the mountains, and there's hiking trails, but I wasn't used to that level of psychedelic. But okay, that's cool. I could roll with it, but at a certain point, it just turned into a different kind of experience. And so, um, when people talk about shamanic dismemberment type stuff, I'm like, yeah, that. And
And what is that? Because I
what is
remember you
you know what
describing
that
that
is,
specifically.
Alex?
What?
You know what that
I
is.
do, but I
Well,
mean,
don't ask me.
I want to hear how you. I think you would probably describe it much better than I do.
Um, well, let's not talk about shamanic dismemberment. I'll just say,
Okay.
at a certain point, it was clear to me that I was at a crisis point where I could let go and demons would eat my soul. And what that meant was that I would be annihilated, not just dead, but, soul annihilated permanently. Or I could live a lie forever. Those were the choices. And I decided to live a lie forever. And I started to run from the experience and and it felt so bad to run away from the experience, to like, oh, now I'm going to live the rest of my life in a lie. And so I stopped and went back and I said, I sat down and I was like, okay, demons, eat my soul. I'd rather be annihilated than live in a lie. And so most people that I've talked to are like, yeah, the demons were going to eat me, but I ran. And I was like, I ended up not running, you know, and just was like, okay. But it wasn't okay. Like I secretly knew it wasn't true or something. I thought it was real, extremely real, like realer than anything ever. And so, like, okay, I'm ready. Do your worst. Just and so that flipped a switch that has never unflipped.
A switch
So
into
my advice is to humans who get into the situation is let the demons eat your soul. So
well,
that's
yeah.
turns out to be a good move.
I mean, I have the chills over here, and I think I got a little, maybe even a heart palpitation, just because in those states, it can sound really cool when you're describing it, but
It
it,
wasn't cool.
it's right.
Yeah,
It's everything is on. It feels like, and I know very vividly where it's like literally everything is on the line, more than life or death. Like for
more
me,
than everything. Yeah,
yeah, it's like San Francisco psychiatric ward for the rest of my days, or whatever. Yeah, or even worse.
yeah.
And that is, it's a not a fun place to be.
No, and I was in the not fun place of trying to run away from it for a couple hours of like the worst experience you could possibly have. And so that was part of why eventually I was just like, fuck it, you know, let's just do this.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's just
yeah.
and so it just that popped everything.
And when you say popped everything, is that like because I think it might be interesting just to from like what your knowledge of phenomenological shifts, like was that a flip into stream entry? Was that a flip into something like fundamental well-being or whatever, whatever framework that we could poorly attempt to match to it? Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to put like religious language on it because of all the traps and difficulties there, but I'll just say whatever got switched, it didn't go away. You know, it's never gone away. And furthermore, like for a year after that experience, a solid year, um, I was in another world, you know, like a very good world. And so it wasn't just like, oh, you came down and it was all a dream. It was like, no. And every single person who knew me was like, what happened to you?
Hmm.
And so eventually it normalized to where I don't I can't tell whether I'm just got used to the other world or kind of brought that back to this one. It's sort of, but the person that I thought I was disappeared.
So like a seeing through of the egoic construction.
I mean, sure, but I just wouldn't, I'm not describing it that way because now we're in a particular kind of language, and that wasn't how I experienced it. I experienced it as um, uh, the person that I thought I was gone.
Yeah, yeah. You were, I think, earlier on the train than a lot of folks, but the sort of pipeline of Ram Dass style awaken from psychedelics and then pursue perhaps the more natural meditation methods. Does that sounds like it tracks here, huh?
Kind of. I mean, there's a lot of years in between of real difficulty, but the thing that worked was I liked meditating for sure. But why I got involved with this, you know, Hindu Tantra energy stuff was because it was the only thing that was strong enough. Like I was like, oh, this reminds me of my experience. This, I'm not just making this shit up. When these teachers, if I go to a retreat with them, stuff happens, and I'm used to stuff happening. It wasn't subtle, you know, and
Mm.
so it appealed to like the kind of, let's say, hyper catastrophic spiritual growth that I was used to. You know, like, okay, it's bombs going off. It's not like, oh,
Yes,
you're,
yes, yes, yeah.
and over time that of course stops, but that's why I originally was like, okay, these people, and also I was like, these people are doing something I can really believe in and work with, and I still work with them. They're great. Um, but I will also say that because of what had happened in Japan with all that experience, I was starting to have a bunch of big energy stuff that I was just not qualified to deal with. You know, you can get, as we know, you can get into places with energy that is just too big for you to handle.
Yeah.
And so that's why I went to a teacher who was all about energy and could handle it, and they did right away. So,
Mm. Yeah, it's so interesting because similarly for me, I had a big blowout from psychedelics and then got really into Kundalini and feeling like it was like needed to do something with that energy. And just hearing you talk about all this, it reminds me, I think, of two facets of your like teaching style, and like maybe one that I feel is worth lingering on for a moment is, yeah, this is my projection, but having you talk about that, like just the profound surrender that was required in that moment in Japan to just be like, okay, I'm actually just gonna face this thing. A story that I have is like that's part of why you teach a like very emotion positive style of meditation, which can be quite rare. But I'd love to
I'm
hear
not
you talk
sure what
about that.
I'm not sure what you're pointing at.
Um, well, so for instance, do you think it's safe to say that you teach like a emotion centric, emotion friendly style of meditation where like emotions are welcome
Oh, I
and
see. I
yeah,
see.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not uh, an early Buddhist. And so the idea that you're going to get rid of your emotions to me just seems ridiculous. Like, I'm not after that. And I don't see that as a worthwhile goal. I know many people do. And so good for you. But that's not like, I don't want to be devoid of all human emotion, except for like peace. It's like, I think, if that's your goal, great. That's not my goal. I want to have the full palette of human experience, at all times. So yeah, no, it's very, um, but that's non-dual two style meditation in general, anyway. The traditions that embrace life, embrace emotion, embrace, um, the vagaries. Um, really attract me, whereas the sort of like we're going to turn it all off kind of direction, which you can do, and it's just that's just to put a very blunt way of saying it, that's a very anti-life position as far as I'm concerned, and it when you get down to the bare metal of those traditions, they really are saying that the world sucks and you're trying to get out of it.
right.
And I just don't agree.
Yeah, yeah. And so let's for maybe for folks who are newer to your work, and just it might be helpful to talk about sort of like the difference, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the difference between like early and later Buddhism, but you talked about non-dual too, and I think I love your orientations between non-duality one and non-duality two, and so maybe just uh, break that down for folks and why that distinction is so important.
Okay, sure. That's a distinction that is there in a lot of people's understanding, but the names non-dual one, non-dual two are just me. That's my way of talking about it. And it's hierarchical, actually. Non-dual one is understanding that there's no separation between anything. Okay, any kind of separation between anything is a mental a mental box that we're using to, uh, uh, categorize and separate all of experience. But we're doing that with our mind. And so once you see through that, then you see everything is different but connected. Everything is different but never separate. And so that's non-dual one. That's a very, very important realization. There's nothing. lightweight or shallow about that. It's very deep. Um, but it tends to create very transcendental traditions where you're like, okay, there's the whole world, everything in it is not separate, but what there is a separate awareness that knows that, or there's a pure world of source that isn't any of that. And when you end up with awareness that is aware of all that as a separate thing, then you start saying, oh, and you'll hear this in a lot of traditions, Advaita Vedanta and Theravada, the way it was really taught, not the way a modern Western teacher would talk about it, but the world with all its display is kind of a um, fantasy that you're absorbed in that's keeping you from knowing what's really going on. And that's true, but it's saying that the awareness that knows that needs to detach from everything, see that it's all hollow and false and unsatisfying, and then go into the soul or into the no self, whatever, or into, some kind of realization of that and just kind of rejecting everything. Um, and like I say, all of that is true except for the last part, because, and that's where non-dual two comes in, because you recognize that the world is this, exquisite panoply of unseparated, shining appearance, but it's also not separate from the awareness that knows that. And so there isn't a special exterior to the world position of being in awareness that's pure and sacred and needs to be, separated out, filtered out from all of experience. So we're trying to get away from experience to see the real thing. Instead, you recognize all of experience is inseparable from the awakeness. And so there's nothing to get away from. And everything that you see is an actual shining expression of the sacred. Right now, that's a very different position. That's not transcendental. Like I'm trying to get out of the dirty, sinful, deluded world into just my nirvana. It's saying samsara and nirvana are the same thing. They are never separate. Um, right? That's a different position. So it is very easy to mix those two things up, but you can tell the difference because um, is is sensory experience in the world a bad thing or not?
Hmm.
That's what it comes down to, And it's like, um, again, non-dual one is still deep wisdom and it's still necessary to get what they're saying. I just think then you got to go further. So to me, non-dual one is all true, but just halfway. Then you got to go the rest of the way and recognize that um, there's nowhere to go.
Hmm.
You're not going to go off into your separate nirvana and this is all going to go away. It's like, no, it's all here. And everything is an expression of the sacred. So anyway, I could go on and on.
That's, well, first, really beautiful. And so, just maybe to summarize, so non dual one is no separation between self and other. And that leads to this sort of transcendental bent to sort of get up and out from the world. But non-dual two is recognizing the non-distinction between emptiness and form and noticing that everything in the world, everything around, all the sensations, sights, sounds, smells are pulsating with the beating heart of awakeness. And
And or saturated with emptiness, however you want to say it.
mhm. And would you say that for folks who are maybe like, okay, like that sounds really cool, but where should I focus? Like, is it stage dependent? Where, for instance, like it makes sense to actually get the first insight down before looking at two, or actually for someone per the later, Vajrayana traditions and whatnot, you can actually start there.
Lots of them do, and I think it just depends on the person. I think it makes sense to do it as stages. You can get the first one and then go to the second one. Um, but tons of traditions are about going directly to the second one. And they're old traditions that have a lot of success. And so, like two of those to mention that go right at it would be something like Soto Zen or Dzogchen, where it's like they're going to introduce you to that right away, instead of kind of making you go through the stepwise. The trouble is that for a lot of people, me included, it's very hard to get the second one right away. For me, it was much more helpful to kind of go step by step. People are different, and you got to work where you're at.
I definitely came more on that sort of like traditional route. But interestingly, when I met you years back and you basically were like, open your eyes, like start meditating with your eyes open, that actually was a pretty significant shift because it was not just going in. And maybe just talk a little bit about, I mean, I know it's for a lot of folks who are in your world, like this is a basic thing, but I think also it's substantial for probably a lot of people about using, your eye, engaging and not just
Sure. Well, and
receiving.
think about the difference, what you're doing when we're closing our eyes. It's like, okay, we're going to shut off the senses. We're going to get into, um, this is just traditional, right? You're going to have sense withdrawal, and then that's how you're going to get focused. And so you are trying to get away from the senses. And again, depending on where you're at in your path, that's a very useful thing to do. But eventually, I want you to come back to your senses, not just go in forever. It's like, no, come back out. And so for a lot of people, it's better to just stay that way. If you're going to end up um, coming back to the senses, why not just do it like that the whole way? Be engaged. That's why these days I don't teach retreats where everyone must be silent the whole time, right? It's like, well, be silent when you're meditating, but when we're in the dining hall, let's talk. Let's know each other. We're not trying to go into some deep altered state. We're trying to um, integrate the whole time. And so it tends to make the retreats way less difficult to return from for people, because instead of trying to do all the integration after the retreat on your own while you're, kind of like totally in an altered state at work, which can be really hard for people, you're integrating the entire time. So when you leave the retreat, you're okay with that. You can do that.
Right. And what I love about, with the open eyes, and I'll talk about the retreat in a moment, is just it's really about integrating this into your life, not just when you're in seated practice, which in essence is really what something like non-duality would be all about, which is that it's not just when we're, lighting incense or doing the prostrations. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
and another thing that just came up is because I've been on several retreats with you now. I feel like it's a more relaxed atmosphere, and it doesn't seem like people have breakdowns in the same way that they
Well,
do.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You
like
have
psychological breakdowns.
exactly, because forcing people into deeply altered states through sensory deprivation is a powerful thing to do, but a certain percentage of people are going to have some kind of breakdown because of it. And so I'm trying to not do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I know I've been on plenty of treats where you're doing something like noble silence or socialization isn't encouraged. And you're just kind of like in your head about, ooh, like, how am I being around this? You're not, it actually can, in my case, and this was stage dependent, but it sort of just amplified neuroticism
Yeah.
that
I mean, part of that is, look at your neuroticism, right? Of course, there's reasons behind all of it, and I appreciate it. But I think we're social creatures. People support each other. And what I found, and I think what I hear over and over again from people is that the the talking at the meals is a huge part of the retreat because people are talking about their experience and sharing knowledge. And I think a lot of my students really have a lot to offer, right? Each other. And so there's a whole thing going on there of building community that is super important,
Mhm.
as well as, it's helping people to integrate their experience by normalizing it. You're talking with a lot of people, but furthermore, you're not just stuck in your own neurotic loop, as you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing that strikes me as maybe central to your teaching, and you can correct me or throw that back at me if I'm totally taking leaps. But
Leap away, Alex.
yeah, you emphasize having like on-demand access to awake awareness, right? Like just drop in, right? And it's interesting because that for me clicked years ago. And then once it clicks, I feel like it clicks, right? Where you actually can, it's just there and you can do, and then that you can really just take sort of like these micro hits of awake awareness throughout your day or just be stabilized in it. But one thing that I've been kind of consistently surprised about, and mostly is actually seeing this like just when you teach and on retreats, is how difficult this can sometimes be for people. And so I'm wondering maybe if you could, point to that and talk about like why it's so essential and also maybe for some very simple, but for others like kind of really difficult.
It's a hard question because really the answer is, well, you can't see it till you see it. And then once you've seen it, what you're looking at. So that's why awake awareness is not an idea that we get or a concept that clicks or some. It's the best term that has been come up with over the ages is recognition. It's recognition, and because it's always there, we're just not paying attention to it. And so, think about something that's can. What's the nature of something that can be always there, but you cannot pay attention to it? It's like ignorable, right? It's not fancy at all. It's very, very normal because it's always there. We're just not paying attention to it. Um, and so that's why it's hard. you know, it's there every minute of your life and you're used to ignoring it. So, the easiest way, this is an ancient metaphor to understand awake awareness is, here's this book, here's a nice new book from Ken MacLeod, This Unexpected Jewel. It's his translation of the Diamond Sutra.
Oh, is
So
this
I
an
ordered that.
affiliate segment here of the?
Yes, totally. I got paid to promote them.
Yeah.
Um, and by the way, if you need car insurance, um, anyway, I look at this page of text. I'm just trained to read the text. I went to school, they trained us to read the text. I can read the text. Um, what they didn't train us to do is see the paper. You ignore the paper. Yet you can't have a book without the paper. The paper's in every book. And in fact, every book you've read had paper. Um, but you didn't think about that. And the essence of awake awareness is to notice the paper
Mm,
all the time. You can still read books. That's what I mean. A non-dual one tradition, it's like all the text is the same. Who cares? Just notice the paper. Well, that's kind of lossy, right? We lose something there. But you can instead get real good at noticing the paper and then still read. And so what's so hard for people, to answer your question, is they just don't get that I'm saying, look at the paper. They keep going, what word do you want me to see? Or is
right,
it a
right.
different word? Or do I not understand the words? And I'm like, just for a minute, let go of the words and see the paper. Just for a second. And once you get it, oh, it's super easy, you know? And of course, There's deeper and deeper levels of doing that. It's not just that the first time you do it, it's as deep as over time, but that's the problem, is that they're trying to get it in the words. And it's like, no, it's the paper. So in other words, to come out of the metaphor, people are looking for an idea to get or an experience to have. And what I'm saying is, no, it's the experiencing. Can you look at the experiencing? And of course, you can't really look at it like that. But can you be the experiencing for just a minute and let go of the experience? Can you be the paper? And is it just one of those things until you understand what I'm trying to have you do, you keep trying to do the wrong thing. You keep trying to find it in the words.
And maybe just to for because I think it might be interesting to just continue unpacking this a little bit. Like, is a good starting point for someone maybe to notice awareness, like, and to use that as an entry point? Because
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's hard to notice. It's not a thing you can notice. It's what's noticing.
yeah, yeah, I guess maybe I mean more like using that conceptual description of the undescribable awareness to point to the sort of like the knowingness which you do at times. And I feel like there's a lot of traditions out there in modern open awareness traditions that are kind of attempting to do that.
It all comes down to everybody's different. And if there was one easy way to do it, everyone would do it. But instead, it turns out every mind is different and people are at different places. And so what will switch someone on is different. And so we try a lot of stuff. We try a lot of stuff. And again, just even, okay, now I can drop into awareness. Okay, but now can we go deeper and deeper and deeper? There's more to do, but that is a big place to start. And I think, again, the big important point is, I'm not trying to get you to focus on something. It's what's aware, and that's not a focus object. And so our whole lives we're trained, what do I do? What do I focus on? And I'm saying, don't do anything, be the awareness. It's just a different move.
Yeah, yeah. Are you familiar with Peter Brown? I feel like you must have come across him at some point.
No.
He's a kind of a random radical. He wasn't a radical non-dualist, but he talks a lot about just how and he passed several years ago, but like experience, it's just experience, and I feel like that word is really helpful. Where it's just
That's a great word.
like it's about as because it's can you just notice that the irreducible nature of experience happening.
Yeah. Can you just notice there is experience right now and then rest in that? It doesn't, you're not trying to focus on any part of experience. And so, again, once you get that move, that seems easy, and it is, in a way, the easiest thing in the world. It's just hard to communicate what I want you to do. But then the work begins, then the work actually begins. It's not like you're there now. It's like now you can begin work.
And what's sort of a good next thing to work on from there?
Um, who's having the experience?
Yeah, yeah, inquiry, yeah, kind of insight, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, insight into what it is that is having this experience. That's what changed for me, back in Japan. It's like, what's having this experience? The answer to that question is not what you think it is. So and seeing that more and more clearly, more and more clearly, more and more clearly is a big deal.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah,
Starts to really change your life.
yeah, I've heard you talk about how just like I think dropping into awake awareness, like just do that as kind of as much as you can, but then also like to that looking back gesture of inquiry. I feel like who is it that's having the experience to really to do that, as often as you feel called to until it's sort of just undeniable.
So, well, that's what we want, is that in your own experience, you, through doing it a zillion times, you have confidence in this view. So it's not an idea. It's something you've experienced over and over and over and over and over, and that's what really changes things. So, um, and we're kind of um, smearing the line between awareness and awake awareness. The reason you say awake instead of just awareness is there is a difference between the kind of awareness you're having when you're pretending you're an experiencer, looking at something to be experienced versus, and that's just, okay, I'm aware. Even if I'm dropped in there, I'm aware, versus understanding that there's no separation. There is no object over there or subject over here. There's just experience. And there's a lot of room between those two things. There's a long arc of letting go there.
Yeah, right.
And so there's a difference between, like reified awareness and just unfixated awareness.
Mhm, mhm. Right, that reminds me of, you just did a phenomenal podcast. You did another one where you had Jake Orthween
Yeah,
interviewing
Jake
you.
is great.
Yeah, yeah, he's a friend, very knowledgeable guy. So, yeah, and at that point, I thought was really interesting around like the difference between de-reification and unfabrication, if I'm getting that right. And in particular, this points back to what you were talking about with the later Buddhist traditions, like how you can have a world that is not reified and yet still recognize that it's fabricated. Is that right?
Yeah, well, you can still have a world.
Yeah.
Whereas in earlier traditions, when you aren't reifying, you're not fabricating. So you're going into a cessation. So the world stops. Your eyes are open and you're not seeing anything. Your ears are open and you're not hearing anything. There's no experience. That's when you're kind of mixing reification and fabrication. And again, that's a non-dual one type thing. You're saying all of this is a fantasy. I'm going to turn off the fantasy and go into the source because that's separate. Um, everything is the world, self and world are not separate because they're all just part of this screen of fantasy, but I'm going to turn that off. So all fabrication stops. Fabrication meaning your senses making a world experience happen. But of course, the later traditions understand that you can have the whole experience arising and still see that it's not an object. So there's a very subtle difference between reifying and fabricating in one way, but in another way, it's extremely not subtle. Is there a world happening in your experience right now or not? Pretty big difference. Which is why non-dual too. Now I can do stuff. I can have emotions because they're anyway, I could go on and on.
Yeah, well, and I really just love that. I mean, I had experience with Tantra, and that's what I appreciated about, I think, your perspective here, which is just the path of non-rejection. We're not rejecting anything, not rejecting
Yeah.
emotions. You do a lot of work with energy. And now, actually, I'm not wondering, like, could you, if for someone who is like, okay, awake, like pointing to this, like this non-dual tool, like noticing the awakeness beating and phenomena, like I know this might be a bold ask, but can you point to that for someone who might be like, help me see that? Or how can I actually experience that? Or what should I look for?
First, um, remember, and I'm talking to, your viewership, that I'm not talking about an idea that I want you to get. It's not an idea. And I don't want anything to look different or sound different. It's not an altered state that you have to go into or anything like that. That's just all the wrong direction. That's trying to find it in the text. All I want you to do is see the paper first. And so it's like, we'll do a little eye exercise that might work for some folks, where just relax your vision so that you're seeing the periphery of vision uh, as just as salient as the center of vision. The periphery is equally there. And just relax your gaze so you're getting the whole visual field at once. Probably works better with no glasses. Getting the whole visual field, the edges of vision and the center of vision all at once. And then just relax into um, experience, just that a visual field is arising. And now I want you to do kind of an interesting thing, which is feel something deep within you, like let's say something you really care about or some kind of emotion you think of as precious and personal. And feel that arising within experience. And then look at something outside you, and maybe even way far away, like a cloud in the distance. But it could be, if you're in a room, it could be like your monitor or something. And notice that that experience is arising in the same awareness as this precious internal emotion. And just very slowly go back and forth for a while. Okay, here's my internal, very private, very personal experience that I think of as unique within me. And here's this thing in the distance. And in the simplest way, do you see that those are appearing in the same awakeness? It's like, as a metaphor, you've got this page, and on the page, there's this word like cloud, and another word like precious feeling. Cloud in the distance and precious feeling, but they're appearing on exactly the same page. And so, in a funny way, they're they're equally they're equidistant to awareness. Can you notice that, Alex?
Yeah. I
Yeah. And so it's fascinating, right? It's like, so in a funny way, the cloud or thing far away isn't any farther away than your most intimate feeling within you. And furthermore, it's just as interior to experience. Or we could say this personal feeling within is just as exterior as a cloud in the sky. Or to put it another way, there's just no boundaries. There's no separate, in terms of awareness, there's no separation of inside and outside. And from that perspective, then both the arising precious emotion within and this kind of like impersonal external object are not only appearing on the same screen of awareness, so to speak, but both of them are shining with the light of awareness. That's how they're not somehow different than awareness. They're made of nothing other than awareness. Just awareness appearing as cloud in the distance, and awareness appearing as precious internal emotion, and everything else, right? It's like all the things on a TV screen are made of light, kind of. That's where you start going into nondual too. Okay?
That's great. Thank you for that. Yeah. You have this nice, very glowing look with your glasses off too. I think I heard Hawk yelling.
He's running around out there.
Yeah.
Sorry about
Oh no,
that.
part. It was part of the non-dual two immersion. Yeah, I mean, I could stay in that, for with you for a long time. But I was really like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to interview you here, huh? Okay, so was this? Yeah, this maybe all is a good segue to yeah, a question that I had for you, which is, this happened to me before I met you. I went through your non-dual YouTube meditations and listened to the Dharma talks and had a profound shift. And that was after having been a very, for my age, other than for people who've like, decided to live at monasteries, like I was an avid meditator and spiritual practitioner.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that seems to reliably happen for folks. Like I'll send clients, friends, I'm like, hey, just do this 30 meditations, do it on every day if you can, listen to the Dharma talks, and people wake up. And this is not about blowing smoke up your ass, but more just like there's a lot. The non-duality has exploded in the scene, as you know, and there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people teaching meditation, like spirituality is having its own revival. As more people are kind of waking up to consciousness. But it seems like your approach reliably is working for people, and I know you're a humble guy, and so like let's put that aside for a minute. With like humility aside, what makes your teaching effective?
Well, anybody's non-dual teaching is effective to the extent that um, they are recognizing it themselves and speaking from recognition. And so it's not a technique, it's just how deep and so there's people who have a lot more recognition than me, and they can reliably put you there by describing it. And like to the extent that I can help people recognize that's how it works. It's like I'll do anything. It's like, well, it's like this, it's like this. No, try it this way, and just keep trying to. Um, this is the difference between being trained in a technique, which you still need to be trained in techniques, um, and like having some level of recognition going on. Is if you've got some level of recognition going on, you can keep pointing at it in 100 different ways because you're seeing it. And so and this is what I really love about the teachers that I really get into is that they just point at it in every possible way. Like, here's a good book. This is Vajraheart Revisited. I can't see my own screen, so I don't know if you can see that.
Who's it by?
Tulku Urgyen
Oh
Rinpoche.
yeah.
And, it's it used to be a secret text just within the tradition because it's like very hardcore Dzogchen teaching. But what you see when you're reading this is even though he's trying to explain concepts and trying to explain how to do stuff and trying to explain the tradition and telling cool stories, and it's a fabulous book. But what you really see him doing is he's trying to point at it every possible way he can, and he never stops pointing at it. Just pointing at it, pointing at it, pointing at it, pointing at it with everything he's saying about every other thing. And so it's a super intense read because it's just he's can't stop pointing at it because he's having such a deep ass experience of it. Everything is it. And so, um, uh, the more that one recognizes, the more you can help people recognize because you're just recognizing. And so think of it as think about stuff like recognition. Like, let's say you're trying to teach someone how to recognize a person's face, like a particular person. Okay, I want you to learn the face of Abraham Lincoln. Okay, here's the face of Abraham Lincoln. Here it is on a mountain. Here it is. But what you would start doing is going, can you see it from this angle? Look at the chin. Here's the nose. Look at the beard. Here's what it looks like at night. Here's what it looks like with the moon at an angle. Here's what it looks like when it's covered in fog. Here's when you can only see the eyelid here's what it looks like when, you just keep pointing until the person can recognize it no matter how they're seeing it.
Hmm.
Right? It's like, it's just um, an opportunity for me to use my famous chicken sexing metaphor.
Oh, I've
Right?
never heard this one.
What?
Yeah.
The chicken sexing metaphor is incredibly important. And that is it on, farms and stuff, it is very useful to be able to know whether a baby chicken, is male or female. But you can't tell. They just look like yellow fluff balls, and they're you need to know, but you can't know. And so, but it turns out you can learn. How do you learn? You learn by sitting with someone who knows how to do it. They can't tell you what they're doing, not because of some kind of secrecy, but because you just can't describe it. But they'll just keep separating the males from the females, male from the female, and then you try to do it, and they'll go, no, 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 that's a
Oh,
male.
yeah, I have
No,
heard
no,
this one. Yes, yes.
yeah. And eventually
Uh,
you recognize male chicks from female chicks.
you
Like
figure it
it's
out, yeah.
just, you just get it.
Uh-huh.
Not get it like an idea, but something that you can't describe, you've learned to recognize. So this is the weirdness of the teaching. It's and a huge part of it is just understanding that it's a thing like that, not a thing like the usual way we try to teach and learn.
Right. And I love that answer because I was like, in my mind, I was like, well, your classical Tantra training, like one of Shinzen's most prominent students, so you have the sort of the Vipassana, and the Vipassana background, like you weave in all these different, you really know your way around the different traditions too.
At least some of them, yeah.
Some of them. But I really appreciate you, pointing it and just like eventually you'll see it because someone just shows you.
Yeah, but and again, there's not the techniques matter, but that's not the thing. That is not the thing. And so, um, to me, there's wonderful teachers of technique, and I do try to be good at teaching technique. But what matters is why do people wake up? Because you're pointing at awakening over and over and over again, right? Instead of getting all focused on the technique, you get all focused on the awakeness, and people will get it because everyone's awake. They just need to learn to recognize it.
Would you say maybe some folks or some offerings are maybe too focused on technique, and that maybe is distracting folks from what's right under their nose?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a strong thing of saying you're gonna meditate, you're gonna learn a meditation technique. Learning the technique well is the whole thing, and then just do the technique. All of which is great. I support that entirely. I love that. But don't forget why you're doing like what is the point?
Right. Right. Mm.
And for many of them, the point isn't the one I'm making. The point is to get in a highly concentrated state. And I'm like, okay, high concentration is wonderful. Why are you doing it? If you're doing it to wake up, then you know what? You can wake up right now, at least a little bit. And then it's going to help you with things like concentration and stuff like that. So there's a certain amount of, what are you focused on? What are you trying to do?
Mm. And maybe then just a question to build on that, and then I just have one more. Um, for like a question around goal and practice, and something that I know you work with folks, like if someone has a goal of, let's say, stream entry or one of these other attainments, like you'll help them get there if that's their goal. But I never hear you talk about your attainments. I mean, you did just talk about recognition, and like at least I have enough recognition to point to people. And yeah, this I think ties back into sort of the humility aspect, which I appreciate about you. And also you have like a nice anti-cult, anti-guru teaching as well. But yeah, I just maybe want to hear a little bit about maybe there's two questions in there, but you can answer it however you want. Like one being, how people should, hold goals and around practice, and then two, if there's any particular reason why you ever kind of avoid talking about like I've done this, achieved this, which some teachers out there are blasting on YouTube what they've so-called attained.
Yeah. Well, um, who am I to tell anyone what their goal should be? I mean, fuck that. It's like if if you want to paint, I'll show you how to paint, but I'm not going to tell you what to paint.
Mm.
And in fact, I hate it when people tell me what to paint. It's just that's not my position. So, like, if someone has a goal of X, and I think a goal I can help them reach, and I think it's a worthwhile goal, I'll help them. Um, but it's not my place to say, you should be doing, your goal should be this in your life. Like, come on. Um, that's a level of dickishness that even I can't, I just can't get behind it. It's like, no, you got your life, do your life. You get to have the goals you want. And if, again, a lot of them I might not like or support, but the ones that I do like and support and know how to teach, sure, I love helping people reach their goals, right? That's fun. That's cool. Um, as far as attainments, on some level, who gives a fuck? Like, uh, it's such bullshit. It's like, look, um, are you living a good life? And and are you a decent human being? And are you helping to be, a force of love and light in the world or not? And beyond that, um, you know, it's just like listening to, cyclists talk about like the gnarly ride they did and they shaved a quarter of a second off some run or something. It's cool. But so what? So it's the same thing. Oh, I achieved this one meditative state. I don't care. I mean, except that that's cool and you got something out of it. Great, but it doesn't, it's just like, let's get back to to business here. Let's get back to life. Let's get back um I mean, in a way, I'm in a funny dualistic old school way, I'm really traditional. Like, let's get back to like God and death and life. Like, what do you care about?
Hmm.
Because sitting around beating off about what meditative state you've got yourself into isn't interesting to me.
Mhm.
Even though on another level it is totally interesting and I could talk about it all day, but it doesn't, it's not important in the way some people seem to think it is.
Can you say more about what you care about? It's about God and death, and you have your
Yeah.
death song coming up for Halloween at the Olympic.
Yeah, in the end, all this stuff that to me is about, like life and death. Not missing the point here, right? This is the exquisite experience of it all, you know? And so sometimes I'm willing to talk to people about like, um, and happy and willing to talk to people about like improving their performance and this or that. But like in the end, like what are we really talking about here? And something I appreciate about you, Alex, because you're always on that tip. You don't forget that tip. You're not talking about bullshit. It's like, yeah, yeah, Alex is talking about life and death and God. I don't know how else to put it. Even if you never use those words, it's like it's the real shit. So yeah, I guess I'm not expressing that very well, but
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate yeah, that just I could keep it talking to you for so much. Maybe we'll do a round two. I want to honor that. We agreed to an hour, and I didn't get to ask about parenting, but I do have one important question from a student and fan of yours. This is from Prodam Statev. It is, can you please
sure.
tell us about your coolest meditation experience?
Proton is always into experiences, and I just say no, I can't. I mean, I don't know what's a cool meditation experience. It's like it's just shit happening. What matters is recognition, you know. And so he's personally at retreats and stuff asked me that question a bunch of times, and so I'll just keep going. Go, have a cool experience and tell me about it. I don't feel like talking about experiences. Um, not, but not that I don't think it's fun and cool, but it just points at kind of the wrong direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. This was wonderful.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks for the thoughtful questions and just for your presence. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, where can people find you? And I want to recommend and give a plug for It used to be the nondual series on your YouTube. There might be one on your website, but if someone's new to your work and they're like, okay, after this, I want to dive right in and do 30 days of meditations, where should they start?
They should just go to the YouTube and start watching,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And then I have the website Deconstructing Yourself, and that gives you a lot of other uh, resources. And a lot of it's totally free. Like there's at least 300-hour-long meditations on YouTube that are 100% free. So start there.
All right, Michael. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Alex. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to the Deep Fix podcast. If you're enjoying the show and getting value from it, I hope that you might consider giving something back. It's how I earn my living from the generosity of people like you who want to see more of my work in the world. And it also helps contribute to the production costs of the podcast. There are a couple quick and easy ways that you can do that. The first is by heading over to Substack and subscribing for just $6 a month. There you'll also get my literary essays and other cool updates. And the second is by heading over to my website, alexolshansky.com, where you can learn about my coaching for leaders. I'm also a practitioner of somatic psychotherapy. I run men's groups and retreats around the country. And lastly, if you're enjoying the show, giving 5 stars on Apple, Spotify, subscribing on YouTube, sharing my work with a friend, all this stuff makes a real difference for a dude who does what I do. But in any case, there are a million places where you can spend your time today, and I remain eternally grateful that you are choosing to spend some of it here with me. Thank you so much, and have a beautiful day.